let's start now. We're going to start the last session of this Marley's Islands. This last session is about marine litter in the tourism sector, transforming the problem into a solution. And now we will start a contest. I'm going to show a picture, and those of you who are not from the Canary Islands, maybe you can tell us who this person is.
Los que no sean canarios.
Please, Canarian citizens, refrain from answering. Do you know who this person is?
No?
No? I can help. And Canarians? Yes, César Manrique, yes. César Manrique was a pioneer, is the person who built this magnificent place that in which we are at the moment. He was pioneer because he made some artistic interventions, having always the territory in mind, and also on how to make tourism sustainable back in the time it was starting. And he created some magnificent pieces of work, and this session will be devoted to him as we are inside one of his works. I think that if César Manrique came back to the Canary Islands, maybe he would go back to the other world. Now we can just move on now, and yeah. After this brief presentation of introduction of César Manrique, and now we will be joined by 4 experts of the tourist sector, or people working in the tourist sector, and they are going to explain their experience in the implementation of solutions to the problem of marine litter. We will start with Angelica Guillen, who is manager for the Canary Islands and Cape Verde for the Iberostar group, and she's in charge of sustainability for the Iberostar hotel group. She has more than 10 years of professional experience in the development of projects, and she will present the policy carried out by this important hotel group to introduce these concepts related to sustainability and sustainable and green growth, bearing in mind the whole concept of circular economy. Angelica, please, would you like to stand up? Yes? I didn't expect to stand up. Maybe you can use this to pass the slides. Thank you very much. It is a challenge to be the last to speak in the forum. Thank you for being here, and I would like to thank the organizers, BAM, the government of the Canary Islands, for this wonderful initiative in the Canary Islands, and also to invite us to be here as part of the tourism sector. We are like the weirdos among so many scientists and researchers. So it is fascinating to see how we all gather towards or in having one point in common, which is this environmental perspective, especially as islands who depend very much on tourism. So we are really committed in promoting efficient solutions. So I'm representing the Iberostar Group. Those of you who are not familiar with us, we are a Mallorca-based company who are present in 16 countries, in America, in Europe. Here in the Canary Islands, we are present in Lanzarote, Fuerteventura, and Tenerife. And the group wants to promote also the protection of oceans. And based on this aspect, 80% of hotels in the Canary Islands are placed near the sea. So as we are one of those groups. We develop a whole strategy to protect the sea, and we do that through a project that is ongoing. It's a movement that started back in the past, and once an objective is met, we need to find another goal. This is a never-ending path, so this is based on the real commitment, and we need to understand that there is there's not another way. We need to commit to sustainable tourism, and the model and the strategic model that has been developed by Iberostar is based on responsible tourism. And based on this, we have 3 lines, which are the circular economy, the consumption of fish coming from responsible sources, and some commitment towards the protection of the coast. We have very well-defined objectives, and we have our own 2030 agenda. And this strategy has been established equally for America and Europe. But once it is applied in the different hotels, we have different challenges. And here is when we have to speak about the way we are applying this strategy in the Canary Islands and how we are applying circular economy strategies in Fuerteventura, Lanzarote, and Tenerife, because even though they belong to the same archipelago, they have to apply this in a different way. I'll try to go. I'm speaking very fast because I only have 5 minutes. So I'm going to give you some details on some data about this strategy that we are developing in terms of circular economy. It's important how we convey the information. Do we do so in a positive way, in a catastrophic way? Well, we are now experiencing a paradigm shift, and although we are familiar with the problem, because that was mentioned before, we need to see how we are all going to find a solution from our own field of action. 8.6% of what we use is then reused. The rest is becoming waste, or maybe is used as in a different. It becomes waste. The use of single-use plastic has been multiplied by 4 in the last years. On the Canary Islands, in the last report, it's stated that 37% of marine litter comes from beach tourism. So we know there is a problem. We're aware of this. Now the question is, how are we going to tackle this problem? So now we are focusing on the fact that we know that the waste management is the last link in the chain. We need to go back to the root of the problem, and this has been already stated and tackled by our previous speakers. And it's true that the best waste is that it hasn't been created, and the best way to tackle this is prevention. So from our hotels, what we have done is to develop a series of measures to prevent the generation of waste and to work with the destination. We cannot speak about a sustainable company if we are not thinking about a sustainable destination. Our group has resources, of course, but the destination is not made up of just a company. It is formed by SMEs, by other entities, and we have to work together hand in hand to understand. We need to understand what is happening in the Canary Islands. We have problems with infrastructures. We have to understand as islands, where are we taking the waste, so it is properly managed, and to diminish this the burden capacity, because in the end we're not generating the waste, but we're using it. Sorry, I just spoke for more than 5 minutes. So this just want you to understand how we work with the solid waste and avoiding it from reaching the sea.
Gracias, Angelica. 5 minutos.
Thank thank you. You only have 5 minutes. Sorry about that. Then maybe you will have time to start a debate in the Q&A section. Now, Juan Carlos de León. León is the operations director of his SM of the Fedola groups. He has a degree in business administration. He's in charge of managing 5 hotels with more than 3,000 beds and more than 1,000 employees. He will talk about the experience in avoiding waste that could eventually become marine litter. Juan Carlos, 5 minutes, okay? Yeah, I will speak very fast because I would like to share different slides. My group is a Canarian group. We have 5 hotels, but there is a wider business group behind. We are working on, we also have companies dealing with vessels, insurance, but the 100% of the investment of the funds are Canarian from Tacoronte here in Tenerife. We have always lived in the Canary Islands. We will live in the Canary Islands for the rest of our lives. We're worried about the Canary Islands. So we understand that tourism needs to be the driver for economy, not only at the global level, but also because we understand that 12% of the world economy is driven by tourism, but maybe more than 20%. Directly or indirectly, tourism represents 77% of the Canarian GDP. And tourism in the Canary Islands without environment has no future. We don't have the Colosseum, we don't have the Eiffel Tower, we don't have great museums, and we have 15 million people visiting us every year who come here because of our climate, because of our beaches and our landscapes. So nature and environment is very important to us. At our group, we have certain concerns, and most of them are linked to digitalization. But most of our energies are towards changing our economic model towards a more sustainable one. Initially, we started working internally, but now we're focused externally.
So looking at hotels, it took 5 years, and then we introduced the certification process, enabling us to measure and reduce the resources that we could therefore pay for this. But we have now the obligation to not consume, and then we focused on the issue of waste. We have some projects that we shared with the other hotel operators. We could share this with them later. But basically, most resources being spent on people. We realized that we were turning our backs to the people that really had to change the ways they work, and these are our colleagues. So we then provided training to our colleagues, going beyond first the typical training, this is yellow and blue containers. No, we need to go beyond that. We need to be persuasive, we need to convince, we need to also create enthusiasm. So we began working on training, showing them the reality, but without being negative. And then if all of a sudden there's a question, what can we do now? We said, there's a plan. There's an international plan signed in December 2015 in Paris, the Paris Accords, and then there are these agreements. These are the SDGs as well. And then we have the 100-something specific targets, and then we had the Millennium Development Goals that only reached a certain level. But now what we have is Sustainable Development Goals, and this went from rich to poor, and then within this there was a breakdown of what needs to be done within society. We have our goals and roles within our companies. Me as a member of my family, a member of society, a member also those that work in town councils. And tourism has 3 specific tours. There's 8, 12, and 14. These are specific sustainable development goals focus on tourism. And then we need to think about what we're doing. 1 minute, 1 more minute. So, 1.5 degrees, this is the temperature goal, but also international economic impact. So then I looked at these goals, and they seemed a little bit abstract to me, but we are now perceiving this. No, so at the last Fitur, the tourism trade fair, we were quite astonished by the number of young people, young companies involved, because they've seen a possibility for developing their businesses by reducing resources and less waste, and all of the environmental policies that are being introduced, the new technologies, and therefore they're meeting the needs of companies and providing to this. So we hotels are aware that 35% of GDP of the Canary Islands, we know that we are a driver. And one more minute, then I will take back to my seat again. No, a friend called me and said there was a talk, and they named my company. And I said, what did they say? Well, our supplier who spoke to me said that they needed to change the internal mechanisms because the manager of the hotel demanded that they no longer use single-use plastics. This was a problem for their organization to begin with. But then they saw that having changed their modus operandi, they were attracting more customers, more guests, because they had proven that they could be sustainable. And therefore, those that work with them are also changing their approach. So this is a good thing for one and all. And then finally, at the end of the day, we realize that we can change matters. No, we are a small hotel chain, no, compared to the huge international hotel chains, but we can change things, and by changing things on a small level, we can truly lead change.
Gracias, Juan Carlos. Me ha encantado este último.
Thank you, Juan Carlos. I really like this last example because it really helps to see that there's little changes that you are performing in small changes have an impact on consumers across the world. So the next speaker is Ana Valls. She is representing the Save the Med Foundation. She's an engineer by the Polytechnic University of Catalonia. And she has more than 10 experiences in project management, and she's working since 2021 in the Save the Med Foundation as manager of in certification of projects for the free plastic containers, and now she will explain us the whole experience from Save the Med.
Todas y todos, y en primer lugar.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank the Marleis organization for allowing us to be here and to participate in this very interesting forum. So I hope we can be here in the next edition. I work as working in projects related to the regeneration and prevention in the Mediterranean Sea. One of our most important projects is that based on the elimination of plastic. And as we are living in Mallorca, we decided to focus on the tourist area because it's the main industry in the Balearic Islands, and consequently is one of the sectors creating the highest amount of waste. So in summer, this the waste production is multiplied by 5. So for many years, working in the sector and by understanding the consumption patterns with single-use plastic containers, we gathered much experience and information, and back in 2021 we launched the Plastic-Free Balearics certification with the help of BIMED. This certification is aimed at the hotel sector that wants to substitute single-use plastics by what we call, thank you Candy, honest alternatives. What is that? So these are solutions that have a lower impact, environmental impact, that are focus on consumption. So to certify companies, we make a diagnosis according to 23 different product categories that have been chosen because they have been regulated by some legal framework. Maybe it can be under the regional regulations or the state regulations or European directives. And this then we add to what we have defined as red flag products that are the ones that are commonly found as marine litter. According to the amount of plastics that are substituted by honest options, we grant them from 1 to 5 stars. To date, we have managed to certify 97 hotels across the Balearic Islands, and we have prevented that more than 21 tons of plastic have been used or created. I think this is a very important figure. When we started implementing this certification, we realized that in the search of alternatives, the market was full of what we called false or fake alternatives. These are alternatives that are under greenwashing masquerade are not better than the ones they want to replace. We're talking about bioplastics. They take away plastified cardboard cups and Tetra Paks for bottle, for instance, and they also create great confusion in consumers for both businesses and for final users, because they don't really know what products to use. This is why, in April 2022, we decided to publish a guide for honest alternatives for the hospitality sector. Here you can have a QR code. I don't know if you can scan it properly, but you can just download it on your phone and take a look at it. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. So what are the main objectives that we want to reach with this guide? First of all, is to raise awareness throughout the whole value chain of the company on the use of single-use plastics in the Balearic Islands. Secondly, we would like to help the hospitality sector in their transition to a circular economic model. Thirdly, we would like to propose new alternatives to eliminate single-use plastic products that are more commonly used by the sector. And also, we offer the necessary directives to differentiate when we are talking about an honest alternative or a fake alternative. To this end, we have created an index that also has been highlighted by Candy, and it's an index that is called HAPPY, Honest Alternative to Plastic Index. And this index measures the environmental impact of plastic products and its alternatives with a scale ranging from 0 to 10. 0 are those meaning zero waste, and 10 those having a greater impact. And finally, our main mission is to position the hospitality sector as a leading sector in the regeneration of our seas and our islands. This is all. Thank you. Thank you.
Gracias, Ana, por la...
Thank you, Ana, for your very clear explanation of what you're doing at Setemet. And now I'm just going to introduce the last speaker, Mr. Liaño, who is the director of Fleet at Fred Olsen Express, which is the shipping company, one of the shipping companies. There are two of them, connecting the different islands. And he has been all his professional life working in the maritime sector. And he, as director of this shipping company, he will explain what measures they have implemented to walk towards the reduction of products that could end up being marine litter. First of all, I would like to thank you for counting on us, and especially with shipping companies. Sometimes we are demonized and we feel out of this environment. And I would like to seize this opportunity to, first of all, learn because we get to know about the alternatives on the table. And since there are people from our company here, we'd like to show you the efforts we are making, not only in our shipping company, but also in other shipping companies, to respect the environment. Very soon, we will have been we've been connecting the islands for 50 years, and our action here is necessary because it is a fragmented territory. At the end of the day, we are the way to connect passengers, goods, and vehicles among islands, and to improve the connectivity between islands is necessary. In the last 50 years, we have moved more than 3.5 million passengers and 1 million vehicles every year. And I think we are evolving. We have been evolving as new alternatives have been identified or created. We want that the ship or the vessel has zero impact on the marine environment. We're not a hotel, we're not a shopping center where we can control our waste 100%. There is a part, that is our human team, but then we have around 4 million passengers that can be controlled to a certain extent within the vessel. So we're now focusing very much on convincing our users, because it is easier to raise awareness among our workers. All of us are more and more aware of the need to make a greater effort, personal effort, to improve these aspects. And of course, we have so many passengers, and we need them to understand how important it is not to throw litter into the sea. But this is difficult to control, but we are doing our best. Of course, we are raising awareness through campaigns and training processes. And some of the activities that we have recently developed is to implement in our ships something that has been really conflictive at some point, which is smoke-free areas. And some people can think that this is nonsense. But it's not a minor point, because some people just choose to travel by plane because people don't smoke there. So yeah, we are working on this. I had a presentation, and now I realize that some of the things we're doing are wrong. So it's good to be here and to see and explore new options. So we have worked really intensively to reduce every year 7 tons of plastic. Is it something that can be praised? Yeah, we are working really hard, and it's something that we should take into consideration because we're raising awareness. We have managed to change this type of material for more compostable materials. Now they are telling us it's not the best option. Well, it's good, because then we can evolve and we can improve, of course. But we have also promoted and given greater weight to our quality department in order to have protocols in place that could be then transferred to the actions we have with our passengers and with our staff. Volunteers, yes, volunteers are very important. We carry out activities and actions with NGOs and institutions. Volunteers can clean the beach, yes, but we also need to train them.
And also, we're organizing actions focused on preventing or minimizing the impact of sea transport on the marine environment. Other areas that we are promoting include quality. And this is certainly building on what we've done in the past. There is a lot of regulation on our industry, nationally, internationally, and the quality department, they are helping us to order everything that we've done in the past, ISO 14001 as well. And we're working on all of these different areas. And one of the most important aspects for us, evidently, is avoidance. avoiding having effects on the marine environment, on animal species and cetaceans. And also, I've heard many talks over the course of today, and many people talk about collaboration, outreach, and training. Now, we will not be able to make any headway if we do not work together. We have ships, vessels. We have people on these ships for a period of time, 2-3 hours, which is however long it takes to cross between the islands. And we can use this time to educate our passengers. Therefore, we're working a great deal on digital training, education, outreach, so that we can train up our staff and the members of our crew to underscore the importance of this. I'm not only talking about training up our staff, but also how they can also spread the word amongst the people that they know. So within our company, we are making huge efforts. Obviously, there is a long way for us yet to go, but I'm going to continue to do my best to bring about changes, not only to reduce use of plastic, but also to reduce waste and to, above all, minimize our impact on the environment. Thank you. Thank you, Juan Ignacio. Now, if you wish, we can open the floor to the audience for general Q&A questions. Any questions from you?
Okay, it's not an issue. My question is for Anna. I was checking the guide. Great job. It's really interesting. I'm sorry for the other speakers because I was not aware of what you were saying. But I would like to ask, so this is a kind of a certification scheme. And what was the rate of companies that engage with you and that run the guide and achieved the certification?
Bueno, te contestaré en castellano para... Vale, perfecto.
I'll answer in Spanish, if that's okay, for general public as well. Now, this program has been extremely well welcomed by companies from our sector. In fact, since we launched it, we've not had to go and knock on anybody's door because we have conducted certification programs. We've implemented it for hotel chains, for small agro-tourism establishments, cafes, restaurants, and they've all come to us. Beyond certification, before the label or the seal, the good positive side of the program is the monitoring, the support, so that they can become aware of the best solutions to replace single-use plastics. But it's not just enough to say you're not doing things right. It's about providing constant support, advisory services, so that we can help them through the process of transition. So I would say that for now, we've evaluated more than 155 establishments, and of these, 97 have been certified. The remaining 50-odd establishments are on the way to certification. No? They are ready and willing to work, and they're asking us for us to guide them through the process because they want to certify, and quite simply, we are raising awareness, and this is going to prevent the generation of waste, and we're going to move away from the disposable plastics paradigm of the past. Next. My name is Yasmina from the University of the Azores, and I have a question for each of you. Juan Ignacio, congratulations. Your presentation was hugely interesting. And I'd like to ask you, that's beyond the observation programs that you have, the whale watching and bird watching programs that you have, do you have a plan in the future for marine litter? Because in the Azores, we have this type of program for our seafaring vessels. Angelica and Juan Carlos, another question. I would have liked to have seen a more informative presentation with more numbers and figures, as we saw with our colleague. Because I don't know the figures on waste and recycling and what you've achieved and whether or not these figures are real figures or are we talking about real alternatives or these fake alternatives as well. No, because I do work with certain suppliers here, and I do know that the fake alternatives are the ones that are actually being used. And then for Anna, congratulations also to your interesting presentation. We are fighting the problem of single-use plastics, and we are now looking at the alternatives that people really think that are reliable, but then we come to events such as today's events and we see that they're not as reliable as we thought. So it is a permanent struggle. And then to conclude, Juan Carlos, I think is your name? Something that is not related to marine litter, but I am a Canary Islander living in exile for the last 10 years in the Azores, and I'm fully aware of these issues, and I don't think that Canary Islands should live only on tourism. It's one of the poorest regions of Spain, and in the pandemic we saw that tourism was not enough to put food on our table, so I think that the message has to change. There's too much mass tourism in the Canary Islands, and it really pains me every time I come back to the Canary Islands when I see all the people, the hotels, the buildings in the cars. I don't think it is sustainable. Okay, I didn't include facts and figures in my presentation because I get bored of the sound of my own voice. But do take a look at our website. There's a lot of data there. All our certified hotels, 80% of electricity comes from renewable energies. We've brought down the carbon footprint by 75% in the last few years, now from the 1,000 tons that we're emitting in the past. And now, technology is changing our approach, and we will continue to adapt as the new opportunities arise. As for tourism, I differ. I have to disagree with what you say. It's like a double-edged weapon, really. It depends how you look at it. And I think that we have wonderful resources, and I think it's a wonder that we receive 15 million visitors. So what do we have to do? Work on quality. And we have to also be aware of the fact that there are developing countries such as Ecuador. Their goal is to bring 3 million people out of poverty. And after the pandemic, one of the huge problems, and I was in Cambodia last year, one of the huge problems for countries coming through the pandemic, developing countries, was the huge unemployment figures because of the loss of tourism. So is it anything goes? No. Tourism is there, and it is a source of wealth. We're going to have to really care for tourism. If we don't do this, then we're going to lose all that we've gained. There are failures and shortcomings, mobility issues. It's shameful how these have been managed in the past. The management of resources, waste. We're talking about tons. 90% of the organic matter that has been consumed by hotels comes from outside. Now, we do have a project, a shared project, and we can channel this. And we can create propane. We can channel all of this by working together. We can create compost that we then spread on our fields, and then we will be able to farm our lands to be able to create locally sourced food that we can then provide to the hotels. We're going to create a virtuous circle. And this is the opportunity that we cannot lose sight of. That's what I have to say. And as for the data, facts and figures, some I could give you right now, but otherwise I'd ask you to take a look at our website. Okay. And as for me, yes, okay, for the hospitality industry. I think there's a certain stigma here, a justified stigma. No, because people think that hotels are potentially dangerous. But I think the most dangerous thing is the model that we have followed, the economic model. This is and would be the case for any industry. Now, in Spain, we have island spaces. In Ireland as well, in Central America as well. And islands live on tourism. All the suppliers, the communities in those islands live on tourism. And I think that the wheels are set in motion because of tourism on islands. Islands are the foundations. So we need to be able to work with companies from the sector, tourism, hotels, hotel managers. We need to work alongside them to change the model, go from this take, make, waste model. We need to bring about this change. I can share data with you. There's all kinds of data available to you. Go to Wave for Change website. This is the movement itself, the Iberostar movement, the Iberostar hotel chain. Wave for Change. If you go there, we have reliable data. We have a team of scientists and experts working with the University of La Laguna, and quite simply, we cannot do anything without data. So we do have proper, reliable data to back up our work. We have to be realistic as well. After the pandemic, we suddenly found ourselves in a completely changed world. And what Juan Carlos has said about suppliers is absolutely right. We need to work with them. We have also EU regulations, directives. In the case of the Balearic Islands, for example, in legal terms, they are much more advanced than the Canary Islands. So we need to not wait for the new regulations to be properly embedded in our region. We need to take a lead. We need to do all that we possibly can with the resources available to us. And I think that this is the overriding idea. We need to do the best that we can. We need to open up new horizons. We need to look for solutions. And providers need to be part of the circular. The circle cannot be circular if the provider and suppliers are not circular. So we need to close the circle, create a circular system. We at the universities need to have researchers so that the data can be managed. We can't stigmatize one specific sector. No, we need to bring them all into the circle. No? I don't think we can have a negative approach towards one particular sector. I think we need to have everybody sitting together at the table. We need to have a frank, open debate, and everybody needs to do their bit. Yes, okay, tourism, sustainability, that is perhaps another debate. But today we're talking about marine litter. It's very interesting that you talk about suppliers in the hotel industry. You need to be able to talk to your suppliers, and you need to persuade them to change their approach to logistics and their production chains, no? So you can, because you have such great influence, you in the hotel industry can put this pressure on the suppliers, on the supply chains, no? And this is going to help all of us in the long term. Juan Ignacio. Yes, okay, coming back to the work that we're doing. I've been working for my company for the last 30 years. And I've seen historical files where university students have been observing and been giving us data all the way back to 1999, which is when we began to work with high-speed sea vessels. And we've had a whole range of different pillars. First, we began to work on waste management, and at the same time, we wanted to work on reducing the impact. And one of the main areas in which we wanted to reduce impact was working with cetaceans, with our high-speed vessels. So therefore, what we've done is we've used technology to create a digital platform where vessels in real time can give information to the rest of the fleet on where cetaceans are found, or floating objects that can interfere with operations. So this real-time monitoring observation system has borne its fruit. It is helping us. Then we can provide these data to universities as well and research centers, and they can help us to analyze these data. Another project is the installation of thermal cameras and the analysis of big data. So there are new technologies arising all the time that are going to help us in monitoring what is happening from the bridge of our ships. So we can control what's happening for the passengers and in the seas and other things. But waste as well is another issue that we need to continue working on. No, and we have cetaceans, whales, dolphins, sea turtles, and we can perfectly plot the use and the disposal of any item of waste. So certainly technology and big data is feeding into the work we are doing. Another question there from the floor. Thank you to all of the speakers. Extremely interesting presentations. Thank you. My name is Nicola from Green Destinations, and I am in charge of the certification of destinations and companies. So this question really is for all of you. My thinking on the role of transparency and communication in all the work that you do. Something that Ignasi said was something I found very interesting, no? Convincing users and colleagues. And also the fact that there are certain things that we're not doing well. So, how can we communicate effectively what is done well and what is not done well? Because when I work on company certification, the main challenge is to be transparent. To also be able to show the public what is not done well. And companies, because of marketing, they don't want the general public to know what they're not doing well. So to overcome the problem with greenwashing, I think that we need to underscore with a red line what is not done well by companies. This, I think, is an interesting point about these programs, no? The good and the bad should be shown through transparent approaches. And next, what is the end goal? You might organize a training course, a workshop, but you can't stop there. I've often seen in the hospitality industry, because we certify any company that's in the tourism sector, I've often seen that if there's not a reward, if there is not a return in the long term for the user, it's very difficult for us to implement these learnings, these new practices in the long run. So basically that is my comment stroke question on transparency for all four of you. Thank you. We are running out of time, so just a word and a couple of remarks from each of you.
We are well aware on this certification issue, and that's why we're working so intensively on quality and transparency, because it is essential. If we create a communication department and we also call it communication and marketing, we are against our own ideas, because because they are not complementary aspects. So transparency means selling not only the errors that we make, but also the solutions that we propose. So I think companies in general are looking for transparency, and but it's also true that we need to be supported by legislation forcing users to be respectful. So they are asking us to be the bad guys, but sometimes we don't have the necessary tools. This happened with the face mask, for instance. Because we had to apply certain directives against the will of users. So users need to understand that we're making an effort, and once we go wrong, we need to solve the problem by looking for alternatives. Yes, we need to change our mindsets. This is true. But when it comes to the Victoria Hotel, for instance, was built thinking in sustainability, and we had to spend more than €6 million to build it in a sustainable way. Maybe we need to see that there's still a lot to do, but we have done something. So we can see it from two different perspectives. So consultants are essential because we need to create happiness, but we are not, so the certifications are, and the standards are necessary. And this is also something that is only provided by consultants. So we need this transparency. It's part of our fight. And on how we convince workers and users on how we are implementing the changes that we are proposing, it is just a matter of communication. We work with luxury hotels, and some of them are kind of rejective at the beginning. Yes, can you tell a client that you are removing this capsule coffee maker from the room because we want to be more sustainable? Yes, do that, because they will understand if the change is explained. So I want users to choose you for implementing these changes and for preventing extra marine litter and for contributing to improve the environment. And I think the key is communication, both with clients and with the staff. We all need to get on board to become the perfect ambassadors, or otherwise it would be a very difficult task. Very briefly, please. Communication is essential, and we need to communicate reality, even though when you know what your limits are. And we need to know that it's a very slow process, but by communicating, you help those who don't know how to do things. You can play a leading role, and it's also a matter of commitment, because we are committed to society and to our clients and both to our staff as well. So it's necessary to communicate little, and to understand that we can improve this communication in the future. But we also need to give, because this is essentially is the base of our credibility. So we need to communicate what is truthful and then to take steady steps. So I think we had a last question, and then when the organizers come downstairs, we will finish. Does it work? No, it's not working. No, it's not. We can't listen to this. Sorry, we can't interpret the questions because we can't listen to the speaker. So sorry, we can't offer the interpretation of the question because the sound doesn't reach the booth.
Microplásticos, como que el otro va pasando a la cadena trófica, ¿no? Los animales. Y en estos temas no todo viene de los barcos, pero sí en aquel caso mucho viene de los barcos. En el sector naviero.
We are sorry, we can't translate the question because we can't hear what the speaker is saying.
Las pinturas, que estas sean de un tipo determinado, ¿hay atención a esa cuestión?
Totalmente, yo creo que...
Yes, this has been evolving. Knowledge is helping shipping companies to improve in this sense. In our case, this is our vessels are made of aluminium and they are painted every year inland, and it doesn't pollute the sea. But great shipping companies, when it comes to these maintenance activities, are made on site, and they don't have the possibility to remove the waste inland. Now the World Organization is forcing shipping companies that once they get to the port, these waste are being collected, and they are even regulating this collection at the ports. I think this is moving forward at a very fast pace, and they will improve very quickly. And when we talk about paintings, we are we are talking about eco-friendly paintings with lower levels of metals and free of some chemicals that are prohibited. It's more expensive, but we are doing so, and this is being controlled through different certifications. So we need to finish now. Thank you very much for being here with us, and thanks to all our speakers, the organization, and the government of the Canary Islands. A big round of applause, please.